My phone lit up at 2:14 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. I was at my desk, eating a turkey sandwich, half listening to the printer running in the background. Normal day, quiet day. Then the notifications started. 1, 3, 7, 12, all from the family WhatsApp group. I picked up my phone and saw my father's message sitting right at the top, sent to all 47 members of our family group. She stole from this family. I have proof. I read it twice, then a third time. The reactions came fast. Shock emojis, prayer hands, someone's aunt typing in all caps. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in 2 years suddenly had a lot to say. And my father's message just sat there, at the top of everything, like a verdict. I was at work, eating a sandwich at my desk, and my whole family just decided I was a criminal. What none of them knew was that I had already been to the police, just not for the reason they thought. My name is Deja. I'm 34 years old, and this is the story of the day my father tried to destroy me in a group chat, and why it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm a certified paralegal at a mid-sized law firm. I've been doing this work for 8 years. I'm the person attorneys trust to organize the documents, track the timelines, and make sure nothing falls through the cracks. Detail is not just my job. It is how my brain works. It's how it has always worked. I grew up the middle child in a big, loud family, the kind of family that fills every room and has an opinion about everything. My older brother Devin was the favorite, the prized child, the one they talked about at every dinner, every holiday, every gathering. Devin got the applause. Devin got the phone calls. Devin got the benefit of every doubt. I got the silence. I put myself through community college, paid for my own certification program, moved up slowly, carefully, on my own. No help, no celebration, no one in my family even came to my graduation ceremony. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I didn't need it. I wasn't the one they bragged about. I wasn't flashy, but I was the one who kept records of everything. And that habit was about to change my life. If you've ever been the responsible one in your family, the one who showed up, did the work, kept it together, and still got blamed when something went wrong, I want you to know I see you. Subscribe to this channel right now, because this community is for people exactly like us. Have you ever been the one who held everything together and still got nothing but suspicion? Tell me in the comments. I'm reading every single one. And if this story is already hitting home, click that like button. Let's get into it. 3 months before that Tuesday, my father called me with a request. My grandmother had passed away earlier that year, and the estate was still being sorted out. There was a holding account set up to cover the household expenses while the will was being processed: utilities, property taxes, maintenance. Small things, but things that needed to be handled consistently. My father asked me to manage it, not Devin, me. I should have recognized what that meant. They wanted the work done, they just didn't want to give me any credit for doing it. But I said yes, because my grandmother had raised me for 2 years when things were hard at home, and managing her house felt like one last way to honor her. So I moved in temporarily, opened a spreadsheet, started tracking every dollar in and every dollar out. 3 months of receipts, 3 months of documentation. I paid the electric bill, the water bill, the lawn service, the pest control. I kept records of all of it. Then, one evening in late October, my father started a video call in the family WhatsApp group. Surprise! No warning, just a sudden call that everyone joined because it was Dad, and when Dad called, people answered. He looked serious on the screen. He cleared his throat and said there was a problem with the estate account. $4,200 was unaccounted for. He said the number didn't add up. And then, without pausing, without any hesitation at all, he said my name. Deja had access. Deja was the one writing checks. I don't want to believe it, but the numbers don't lie. I wasn't even on the call. I found out about it afterwards. But Devin was on it, and Devin did not waste a single second. I always said you shouldn't have trusted her with this. She's never been responsible with money. The chat exploded. Aunts asking for explanations, cousins tagging each other, someone typing that I needed to come clean before this gets worse. Prayer hands everywhere, like my guilt was already confirmed and all they could do was ask God to help me confess. And the police report, the one my father mentioned on the call, like it was already filed and settled. It was. He had gone to the station that same morning, filed a formal theft report with my name on it before he ever once picked up the phone to call me and ask what happened. I didn't find out from him. I found out from a screenshot my younger cousin sent me privately with a simple message, "Deja, what is going on?" That's how I learned my own father had reported me to the police. The next 2 days felt like the floor had dropped out from under everything. I woke up on Wednesday morning and checked my phone. I had been removed from the family WhatsApp group overnight. No message, no explanation, just gone. My cousin had to tell me. She said she was sorry. She said she didn't know what to do. My mother didn't call. She didn't text. She chose her position through her silence, and her silence was loud. I thought maybe things would settle down. Maybe someone would reach out. Maybe my father would call and say he wanted to hear my side before going any further. He didn't. That weekend, I went to my aunt's birthday dinner. Nobody had told me not to come. I figured it was still family, still a regular event, and I wasn't going to disappear just because people were talking. I drove over, I bought a gift, I walked in holding a little pink bag with tissue paper in it, like everything was normal. My father was standing near the kitchen. He saw me walk in, and his face didn't soften. He looked at the room, then back at me, and said it loud enough for 12 people to hear, "Oh, she's here. Lock up your wallets." Someone laughed. A couple of people looked away. I stood at the edge of that room, holding a gift bag for my aunt's birthday, and felt something cold and heavy settle into my chest. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I set the gift on the table near the door and walked back out. I sat in my car for 4 minutes. Then I drove home. A week later, I found out what Devin had been doing behind the scenes. 2 cousins told me separately, neither of them realizing the other had also talked to me. Devin had been telling people that I had a history of borrowing money and not paying it back, that I'd done this before, that the family should have seen it coming. None of it was true, not a single word, but he had been saying it, quietly, consistently, to exactly the right people. He wasn't just reacting to the situation, he had been building a case against me before any of this started. That night, I sat down at my kitchen table. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator. I opened my laptop, and instead of falling apart, I built a folder. Every receipt, scanned and labeled, every bank transfer with timestamps, every text message from my father approving each payment before I made it. The lawn service in September, the pest control in October, the utility catch-up payment Devin himself had flagged as urgent 2 months ago. I kept saying it to myself quietly, like a rule I couldn't afford to forget. Don't react. Don't blow up. Build the case. You work in law. You know how this works. Act like it. What they didn't know was that I had kept everything. Every transfer, every approval my father sent me in writing over text, every voice memo from our phone calls where he told me exactly what vendor to pay and exactly how much. The $4,200 my father said was missing, I could account for every cent. 3 separate payments, all authorized. He had approved each one personally before I touched a dollar. But here's where it gets interesting. One of those payments had gone to a vendor Devin recommended, a maintenance company. Devin had brought it up himself during a family call, said he knew someone reliable, gave me the contact information, told me to use them. So I looked the company up, I pulled the business registration, and there it was, filed with the state, clear as anything. The company was registered in his wife's name. Devin had steered estate money to his own household and then helped point the finger at me when my father noticed the account looked different than expected. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger was too hot for what I was feeling. I was focused, cold and focused, because I'd sat across from enough attorneys over 8 years to know that the person who stays calm and keeps records almost always wins. I had a plan they never saw coming, and it started with a phone call I made to someone in my office. Her name was Patricia. She was 58 years old, and she had been a practicing attorney for 30 years. Estate disputes, defamation cases, probate litigation, she had seen everything. I had worked under her supervision for 4 years, and in that time, I had never once brought a personal problem to work. I knocked on her office door on a Monday morning and asked if she had 15 minutes. She had her reading glasses off before I finished the first paragraph. When I was done, she set her pen down flat on her desk and looked at me directly. Deja, she said, what your father did, filing a police report without evidence and broadcasting an accusation to 47 people, that has legal exposure. That's not just hurtful, that's actionable. She agreed to represent me, not as a favor, as my attorney. She helped me organize the evidence into a formal package and drafted a response letter to the detective assigned to the case. Meanwhile, my family kept moving. Through my cousin, I was getting updates on everything. Devin was being positioned as the responsible one now, the natural choice to take over estate management. My father posted in the group chat again, we're moving forward without disruptions. The estate is in good hands now. And the family responded with heart emojis and agreement. Then my cousin told me about the meeting, a formal estate meeting scheduled at a local attorney's office. My father, Devin, and 2 senior aunts. No one had called me. No one had invited me. They were going to officially transfer all estate responsibility to Devin and move forward like I didn't exist. They thought they had already won. They were dividing up the future, passing around responsibilities, making plans. They had absolutely no idea that Patricia had already sent a formal letter to the detective on the case, or that the estate account records were telling a very different story than the one my father had told in that group chat. I got dressed the morning of the meeting in a plain black blazer, flat shoes. I pulled my folder from the shelf where I'd been keeping it and put it under my arm, and I drove to the attorney's office. When I walked through that door, my father's face changed immediately. His expression went from settled to unsettled in less than 1 second. Devin stood up slightly from his chair and said it fast and sharp. She's not supposed to be here. The estate attorney looked up from his desk, calm and professional. She has legal standing in this estate. She stays. My father's 2 sisters looked at each other. Nobody spoke for a moment. Patricia joined by phone. I set my cell in the center of the table on speaker, and her voice filled the room the way it always did in her own office, measured, certain, a voice that had cross-examined people for 3 decades. The evidence went on the table, every authorized payment, every text message from my father giving his approval before money moved, 3 transactions, documented, time-stamped, approved. And then the vendor registration. Patricia read the company name aloud. She read the registration date. She read the name listed as owner. Devin's wife. My father turned to look at Devin slowly. His voice came out quiet and confused. I didn't know it was his business. I didn't know. I waited. Then I spoke. I know you didn't, Dad, but you knew enough to post my name in a group chat. You knew enough to file a police report. Did you know enough to ask me first? The room went completely silent. No one looked at Devin. No one looked at my father. Everyone was very focused on the surface of the table. Patricia's voice came through the phone again, steady and clear. The evidence has already been reviewed by the detective on the case. The report filed against Deja is being formally withdrawn. We are now asking your family how you'd like to proceed because we have additional options available to us. Devin started to talk. He tried to explain, redirect, reframe. The estate attorney raised one hand and said 2 words. Mr. Holloway, stop. Devin stopped. My father sat back in his chair. He pressed his hands together and stared at the table for a long moment. Then he said it quietly, like something that cost him to admit. I made a mistake. I didn't cry. I didn't feel the rush of victory I had imagined during all those quiet nights at my kitchen table. I just picked up my folder, aligned the edges, and looked at him evenly. Yes, I said, you did. The police report was withdrawn within a week, formally, documented and cleared from record. Devin was removed from any involvement in the estate. There was no announcement, no family meeting to explain what happened. The group chat just went quiet. The family restructured in silence, the way families do when they've done something they can't quite defend. I didn't ask to be added back into the WhatsApp group. I wasn't bitter. I just understood now, with total clarity, who each person had chosen to be when it mattered, and that knowledge was worth more to me than any apology that came too late. 3 weeks after the meeting, my mother called. She was crying before she finished saying my name. She asked if we could meet for coffee. I told her yes, but I chose the day, I chose the time, and I chose what I was and wasn't willing to discuss. Patricia formally offered to mentor me toward becoming a licensed attorney. She said she had been watching my instincts for years and that the way I handled this case, organized, disciplined, unshakable, was exactly the kind of thinking that belongs in a courtroom. It was something I had quietly wanted for a long time, something I had never said out loud because nobody in my family had ever made me feel like it was possible. They passed that police report around like it was my ending. They sent it through a group chat to 47 people like it was proof of who I was. What it turned out to be was my beginning, because the moment my own father stopped seeing me clearly, I finally started seeing myself. If your family has ever accused you publicly before asking you a single question, I want to hear from you. If someone named you, shamed you, and froze you out before you had a chance to speak, you are not alone. Drop your story in the comments. Tell me what happened. This is a space where those stories matter. Has your family ever blamed you publicly before hearing your side? Tell me in the comments, and click hype to help this story reach everyone who needs it. Standing up for yourself is one of the hardest things you will ever do, especially when the people coming for you are the ones who were supposed to protect you. If you've been there, subscribe and become part of this community. Let me know this story helped by clicking hype and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel.